before I even get out of my bed. Be the melody that's sweetly singing me to sleep, that I don't wanna get out of my head. Oh, I'd cross any ocean just to be closer to your heart.
All right, welcome to Real Talk. We are so excited for tonight. We want to say welcome to our Hazlitt campus. This is our very first time here.
I'm so happy. We're in my home place. I love being in Hazlitt.
Yeah, you're like in your territory
Yeah,
here.
this is home. I love it.
And I want to say welcome to our online audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. If we haven't met yet, I'm Roger Gibson, and this is...
I'm Bree Kitch. I'm the mental health director.
And, you know, we're on a topic, this Real Talk, that I've been really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Because it's something that all of us have been there, no matter what age we are or season of life. I know, Bree, that have you ever had that situation where you felt like kind of stuck in life?
Yeah, we get in these seasons where we just feel like we're doing the same thing every day. Feels like a slog, like we're just trying to kind of wake up, do the same thing, go to bed, repeat. Yeah. And it feels like we can't get any enjoyment or fulfillment.
Yeah, that's such a tough season. And I just remember that time in my mid-30s. I actually hit that where I was just stuck. I felt so disappointed with life. I felt even frustrated because nothing was working. I would try every single day going, I'm going to go get it. But then nothing changed. It was so frustrating. That's why getting stuck is not fun. But I know that tonight, a lot of us are here going, hey, I really need something to help me get that step forward, to start seeing changes, start moving forward in my life, because I'm not really enjoying this. And tonight, Bree, I think it's going to be huge for a lot of people.
Yes, like you said, this is going to be a night that hopefully changes things for you. If you have felt stuck, if you currently feel stuck, let this be the first step out of that season. I'm so excited to introduce you to our speaker tonight. We have Nick Overbeck. He's a licensed therapist who's been in the field for 10 years. He has a private practice in Colleyville. His practice is called Highway to Heal Counseling. And he has a lot of experience with helping people who have been in these seasons and are just looking for a way to get out and to feel that enjoyment and passion again. So I'm really excited to welcome Nick Overbeck.
Yes, so please welcome Nick. But before we start, we got to remember the most important part, really what everyone loves about Real Talk. And that's at the end with Nick and Bree and myself is our Q&A.
This is our favorite part. How could I miss this?
I know.
It's our favorite part of the evening.
Thinking about that. So what's that number, Bree?
So we will have that number up here for you. Please put this in your phone right now. If you have a question as we're going, send it in as you have the question. We're going to get the bank of questions going, and then when we come back up here, we'll have several questions to get answered. They are anonymous, so don't feel nervous about that. Whenever you send it here, it just tells us your question, not who you are. So if you're streaming with us, please send in your questions. If you're live with us, please send us your questions.
And as he's speaking, go ahead and it may give you a thought. Text that question in, and then we'll be ready to actually address all those questions. I already gave him warning. We got to go fast because we want to make sure we get to your question. So, hey, let's get this started, and please welcome Nick.
Yay.
Hey. Thank you for having me. All right. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name's Nick Overbeck. I am a licensed professional counselor, owner of Highway to Heal Counseling in Colleyville. Been doing this about 10 years. I guess you already said all that, but I'm saying it again. So thank you for having me here today. I have worked indirectly with this church and many others through the work of my clients, because spiritual health is mental health, right? As is physical health and social health and professional health. And they can all work together for us or against us. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. All right, this works. So I'm going to talk about something very specific today, a certain type of stuckness that I see a lot in these rooms and in my life, and that's functional depression. And what depression can look like when it doesn't look like depression, and what stuckness can look like when it's not so obvious. So as we go through this, I'm pretty excited for the Q&A. Never done that before, so I'm going to try to move through this really quickly. I usually interact a lot with people, so I'm going to change that tonight. But think about what might come up for you and how you can relate. So just real quick, what I hope to really emphasize is talk a little bit about the hidden sides of depression, what it can look like. I think when people think depression, they think of something very specific, or maybe they have a lack of knowledge, or maybe they know someone that struggles with depression. And I'm going to talk about predominantly what it could look like outside of maybe our preconceived notions. So depression can often hide beneath achievement, excessive busyness, caregiving, putting things on the side. There's typically two types of depression. Most of us experience reactive depression in our lives, right? That is, someone passed away, I moved, I went through a divorce, there's something extreme that happened, COVID, right? There's something that happened in our lives that completely altered either our internal and or our external world, but eventually we get through it, right? It's a phase or a passing through, maybe not a phase in the right word. But the other part of that is active or clinical depression. And I'll talk quite a bit about that as we go through today. I'll talk a little bit about trauma, shame, emotional avoidance, escapism, and how that can fuel and mask depression. And then talk about healing, the part I really enjoy to talk about. So some really quick depressing statistics. 29% of adults report they've been diagnosed with depression at some point in their life. That increases significantly amongst lower income, right? More challenges, makes sense. During their reproductive years, about 1 in 8 women experience symptoms of postpartum depression, which is something unique, right? And again, more of a hidden face of depression. Depression is the highest amongst young adults. That remains true. That actually escalated a little bit with COVID. And suicide is nearly 4 times higher in males than females. Men account for 80% of all suicide deaths. It is now the 11th leading cause. I've worked in suicide prevention for over 10 years, 15 if you count my volunteering. This is 3 years ago is the first time we've gone below top 10 causes of death. So we're actually making some progress with that. So effects of depression, high functioning depression, right? So not the typical of what we're used to. Chronic fatigue, low self-esteem, difficulty concentrating, loss of interest. So when people often think depression is not just crying in the rain, right? It can be, I just pulled out my phone and time traveled 4 hours, right? It can be, I have Netflix open and I don't even want to exist to pick my next show, right? And everything's going well externally, right? But what's going on internally? So depression impacts energy levels, sleep, concentration, motivation, physical health, relationships, self-worth, spiritual engagement. And some people can still function quite high even if they're struggling internally. Many people describe depression not just as sadness, but numbness, disconnection, emptiness, hopelessness, or just feeling emotionally flat, right? That they're just not experiencing things as they would expect. Maybe they expected to feel joy and they feel nothing. What it can look like in our heads. Nothing will get better. I'm a burden. I'm failing everyone. I should be stronger than this, right? So if we find ourselves struggling with these, what we call, in my world, core negative beliefs, that might be something worth addressing as we'll move forward. So great meme and a great depiction of what functional depression can look like, right? There's a fire going on and it's okay. This is fine. So we kind of learn to accept our reality and keep moving. So when we look at functional depression, it really means that we're still meeting our responsibilities, we're still productive, we're very achievement-oriented, responsible, caretaking, maybe a little perfectionistic, service-driven. We're doing maybe all the right things, but it just doesn't feel right on the inside. And that's, I think, worth looking at. So I had an example here. A father works 60 hours a week, volunteers at church, never misses his children's activities, appears dependable, everyone around him. However, internally, he feels emotionally disconnected, struggles to sleep or oversleeps, and secretly wonders whether life will feel meaningful again, right? How many people do we know that don't slow down? I'm not saying if you can't slow down that you're depressed, right? It's just sometimes a function of this and a masking of it. So I could spend several hours on this. I will go through this quickly, but there is a very strong link between trauma and depression. If you walk away with anything about trauma, trauma is not what happens to us, it's what happens within us, right? I'll never forget when I was working with a veteran, I asked him, he was coming in for alcoholism when I worked in a rehab, and I asked him, what are your traumas? What negatively impact your life? And he told me, my best friend died in combat in front of me. Not traumatic. He died honorably. I got counseling. I feel okay about it. I think fondly of him. But that third grade teacher that called me an idiot, I'd still kill a bottle of vodka over that every Friday night, right? Most people wouldn't care what a third grade teacher said or did, but for him it shattered his world. So just think about that when we think about trauma. It's not what happens to us, it's what happened within us. If we're resilient, if we find help and support, we feel supported, we tend to recover, right? So already kind of hit on some of these. I'll skip over some of these, but when anyone experiences overwhelming stress without adequate support or safety, the nervous system's going to try to do something with that, right? It's going to try to adapt and disconnect sometimes, which we'll talk about here in a bit. Trauma can contribute to chronic anxiety, physical pain, emotional numbness, hypervigilance. If you haven't heard that word, that's just being overly aware and always knowing where the exit doors are, overly aware of their situations, their surroundings, making sure they're safe, checking for safety constantly. Shame, we'll talk about that. It also just trauma teaches people to survive by disconnecting from themselves or others emotionally, right? Especially if we haven't healed those wounds. So many people, especially people that are highly functioning, sometimes they carry unresolved trauma in their life, right? So shame and the inner critic. So what people think depression looks like, what it really looks like, right? I've worked in Southlake and Colleyville for a really long time. It's a pretty high socioeconomic status. A lot of people that have watches that are worth more than I'll ever make in my career and things like that, right? Some of those people are probably some of the most people hurting, I don't want to say broken, but feeling broken individuals I've ever worked with, even though everything around them is going great, right? And part of that is shame, unresolved trauma. And so we want to look at that. Shame, there's shame and there's guilt. Shame is identity-based. Guilt is behavior-based. Shame is I am a mistake. Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is toxic. Guilt is corrective. And so guilt can actually be a good thing, right? If we do something, we hurt someone, we feel guilty, we might go apologize. If we feel shamed and we think, oh, I'm a bully just like my dad was, you're going to keep bullying people, right? So that is a overview of that. I can give you a lot of books to read about this, but I don't think we can't talk about depression without talking about shame. So depression and shame often thrives and includes harsh self-talk. I do think most of us are worst inner critic, right? I think that's just a natural part of being a human and dealing with ourselves day in, day out, and seeing our flaws. However, we need to take care to that because that relationship is vital, right? So how shame is learned through trauma, through bullying, perfectionism, maybe religion was used in a dangerous way, right? Or we learn through our families. It thrives in secrecy, silence, and judgment, and it keeps us from being authentic. And we'll talk about the antidotes to shame here in a bit. So if anyone feels personally attacked by this slide, you're with good company. We're going to talk a little bit about escapism and how people often emotionally avoid and cope. I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor, so a lot of what I do is work with addiction. So I work with this a lot and could talk about this forever, but I'll leave it to the questions. I do want to highlight how people cope. And I don't want to say that this is all bad, this is all considered negative. We just need to find balance with these things and align them with our values, right? We have a lot of ways to cope these days, healthy and unhealthy, right? Gambling, sports betting, prediction markets. I actually went to TC recently and spoke with their staff, and they said that's their biggest issue right now. College students, their biggest mental health crisis is gambling and betting, and a lot of young kids losing a lot of money and getting into dangerous situations. maybe problematic sexual behavior. That can look like a lot of different things, right? Not using the word sex or porn addiction here. I'm saying problematic sexual behavior. It sounds a little less stigmatizing, but that can be a way to cope. Excessive gaming, video game addiction, social media. Ooh, that's a big one. I think I see that a lot. We also have shopping, spending, disordered eating. Here's the one I've talked about a lot, remaining excessively busy. Disassociation, if we don't know what that is, that's tuning out of our bodies, tuning out of our minds to cope, right? You ever drove and you forgot how you got to your exit? That's disassociation. Doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Please don't feel overdiagnosed by all I say here. It just means that if you're doing that too much, it might be worth looking at, right? And then substance use, which is another one. So my favorite thing to talk about is resource building. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's important, and that is finding community. Connection is key to healing with almost any issue I work with. I'm a little annoying with my clients and pushing them to build their own community outside of me, right? I see people 1 hour a week. That's not as impactful as the thousands of hours we don't meet with each other, right? And so what are you fostering? What are you building? What does that look like for you? And I think that's something I got to ask myself from time to time too. But when it comes to depression, depression is very isolating. It tells us that we're not worthy, that no one cares. I'm a burden. They don't want to hear about this, right? And it does feel a little unusual and maybe unfamiliar, uncomfortable to break that mold and challenge those thoughts, but that's what we need to do to find healing. And so human beings heal relationally, right? That's why a lot of you are here today. Build a community here. I love that I get to stand up here and talk about these things, and we want to find connection. It's innate in us. That's why 2020 was a heck of a year, right? It tore us from each other, and I think people quickly realized that, well, some introverts thrived, right? But most people really wanted to rebuild that connection again. What does connection include? And I'm going to give you examples as we go through this as well. I also saw on the flyer there's a lot of really good examples, so you can check that too. But friendships, support groups, maybe family repair. I think that can be an issue for therapy or with your support system. What does that look like? What's worth it? What isn't? Spiritual connection, obviously that's a big part of it, right? I believe spirituality can be religious, and it can also be beyond that, right? What helps me feel closer to God or whatever higher power I believe in, what gives my life meaning. I once met a pastor that would speak to the rehab all the time, and he was a Irish minister, wrote a bunch of books, but he would always talk about how being on a mountain helped him feel more spiritual and closer to God than a church. And that was his journey, right? Everyone's journey is different, but it is a big piece of our mental well-being. Clinical care, that's where people like me come in, if appropriate. 12-step programs, I'll get into that in a little bit. That's predominantly used for substance use, but it can be used for a lot of other issues as well, especially when we look at the avenues of addiction. Online support systems, gosh, there's so many of those these days, and mutual interest groups, and I'll get into that here in a minute. So how to strengthen recovery? Well, reducing stigma, and I'm going to go through some quick examples of how we can reduce stigma and ways to change dialogue, change the conversation, and just ways to meet people where they're at if they are struggling with this, because you might have some people in mind, or maybe you fit that mold, and this is just some ways to express yourself. Finding meaning during suffering, that can be really challenging, and that looks unique for everyone. Encouraging humility, accountability, and forgiveness. And when I say this, this is really for others, right? Looking for people that foster this and or fostering it yourself to others that are struggling with this. Creating supportive recovery communities. It's one thing I admire about this church. There's a lot of those here. I think y'all have some Celebrate Recovery programs that foster that. I'll talk about that too, but it looks like there's already a system for that here. And referring individuals to clinical care when appropriate. And maybe they do need to talk to a professional. You don't have to act like a professional. If anything, I'm a professional, and when my friends call me with their issues, I ask, have you talked to your therapist? Because I can't do that for them, right? So what's the evidence? Individuals with strong spiritual or religious engagement often show higher recovery rates, greater resilience when struggling with mental health issues. It's one of the biggest things I work on when I work with clients that are struggle with passive or active suicidality. What's keeping you going? What gives you hope? What do you believe in? What's one thing that you can live for today? And if we can throw spirituality into that, if we can throw a relationship with God or some other strong connection, it tends to keep them going, right? And give them another day to press forward. Spiritual practice like prayer, meditation, community worship also support emotional regulation and hope. So I led up to this. Here are some ways to hold space with compassion. And I didn't pull this from anything except personal experience. I've worked with a lot of ministers and pastors. I've worked with people that are in church systems. I've went to conferences all over and kind of just did some meandering and what's working and what isn't working. How do we do better? What do we learn from? And then also my clients telling me when they didn't feel heard or supported. And so these are just some examples of things I've heard and offering some alternatives. You just need to pray more. An alternative, let's pray for God to guide the hands of your support system and for peace during your treatment, right? I know that's a lot of words, but it's a little more compassionate than just pray more, because sometimes when people hear that, and they don't feel heard, right? If you had more faith, you wouldn't be depressed or drinking alcohol every day or so on. Better suggestion, your faith is a source of strength, even when your health's a struggle. Don't take medication, just trust in God. I'm not here to push medication, but for some people it is an absolute game changer. I think my goal is for my clients to fire me. My goal is to be less and less relevant in their lives. And I think for many, that's the goal of medication too. Be on as minimal as possible, right? So medication can be a tool God uses to help bring stability so you can engage more fully in life. By the way, I can send this to y'all. I'm happy for you to share it too. They committed suicide. This is something I'm a little passionate about. I'm being a little politically correct here, but I believe in changing those words to completed suicide or died by suicide. Because if we say committed, it makes it sound like they died a criminal, right? And so the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention is really pushing that these days. It's a little more compassionate to the families and the survivors. So if you catch yourself saying it, just try to change the wording. Substance abuse or mentally ill. We're really trying to look at words like substance misuse or problematic use or substance use disorder. I kind of use the words my clients use. Some of them, they're just like, I'm addicted. Great. Well, if that works for you and that helps you to find healing. For others, they say, I have a problem with alcohol, or I try to meet people where they're at, right? Maybe they're clean. I'm 90 days clean. Can say, I'm 90 days sober. So just more compassionate ways to look at it. But don't worry if you slip up. I think most people just care that you're listening and you're trying. So real quickly, some evidence-based supports for depression. Obviously therapy. There's a lot of levels to that. I could spend hours on that. I won't. But just know that every layer can add more. I used to work somewhere where people went 10 hours a week for therapy, group therapy, individual, family therapy. I do 1 hour. Sometimes people need residential treatment or inpatient hospitalization. So there's a lot of layers to that. CBT and DBT, I won't get into all that, but it's really teaching people to change their thoughts, how they see the world, how they see themselves, challenge negative beliefs, try not to do the all or nothing thinking, and find ways to get around it. I didn't put this here, but supplemental support, dieting, right? Figuring out what you put in your body, because that has so much impact on your mental health. Addressing negative self-talk, figuring out boundaries, healing shame. These aren't things I'm asking y'all to do, right? These are just things we do clinically. I'll get to that in a minute, what we can do ourselves. Practical skills is just building your ability to understand your emotions and identify them. Good and bad's not a feeling, y'all. It's a cheeseburger, right? So figuring out what's happening within me, maybe why that's happening, and then what can I do about it instead of Netflix and chill for 8 hours, right? So trying to find new ways. Grounding, that can be meditation, prayer, breath work. There's a lot of ways to ground, way beyond what I have on the slide. Limiting avoidance and numbing behaviors, it's okay. I mean, there are nights I play video games for 4 hours. That's fine, right? But if you're doing it so much that you're losing sleep or you're not paying attention to your children, then we might need to revisit that. So what can we do ourselves? Healing beyond the couch. I don't know if y'all have heard this, but 30 minutes of sunshine a day there's a lot of clinical trials that show it is just as effective as antidepressants for depression treatment. That's why you see higher rates of depression in places like London and Seattle, where there's not a lot of sunlight. So getting outdoors, a lot of people that have depression are D3 deficient. They're vitamin D3 deficient. If you have a primary care physician, talk to them, ask them to test your D levels, because that is a real thing. And I've had a lot of clients get on vitamin D3 and they start feeling better. It doesn't cure things, but it helps a lot. So there could be something going on biologically, right? Community, reducing isolationism, depression thrives. Depression and addiction thrive in isolationism. Movement that's intentional and fun, purpose and play. A therapist once explained to me at a conference, play, because we forget to play sometimes as adults, play is doing something without purpose. So learning how to do things without purpose. Honest, open conversation, spiritual connection. And just know recovery is gradual, not instant. Takes time. So here's some resources. I saw y'all have some resources on the flyer you handed out. I just wanted to put up some more. These are general resources that you can take advantage of. Obviously, there's church groups. There's a really great group in Dallas called Remix Recovery that has a different topic every single day of the week. I love the Meetup app just for making connections, meeting people, getting outside. Volunteering, I think that's a way to really pivot our suffering into something positive, helping others, right? I think every nonprofit came from a sad story, right? And let me turn that into something willful and intentional. For addiction, there's so many resources these days. Celebrate Recovery, I think you have these in most of your satellite offices now, right? Is that correct? So Celebrate Recovery is a great tool for fostering a relationship with Christ and addressing addiction with the community. There's 12-step, there's AA, there's Smart Recovery, which is more about changing this. Phoenix Recovery, I could go on and on. Can you tell I do a lot of addiction work? For families, I love NAMI. It's the National Association of Mental Illness, and it is a great resource, especially for parents and loved ones and spouses of anyone that struggles with any kind of mental disorder. There is Al-Anon, that's more for family members struggling with addiction. The Dallas PAL group is great, parents of addicted loved ones. For mental health, psychologytoday.com is the Google of finding a therapist. MHMR, there's a lot of resources for veterans. One Tribe is incredible, it's led by veterans. They provide free therapy for veterans. VA, Hooves for Heroes is working with horses and veterans. It's a pretty cool program. And then just finding service and fellowship outside of recovery, either within the confines of your congregation or outside of it. So some closing thoughts, because I want to move quick. I know we have a lot of questions and everything. But I think it's important to seek and understand the process over the content. What I mean by that is what's actually happening, right? When I see someone that is, I used to work at an addiction rehabilitation center, so people are doing 30 to 90 days treatment. And when I see someone throwing a chair across the room, right, I think our natural inclination is, why is that guy so angry? This is childish, right? But that's the content. The process is deep down inside, there's a 14-year-old hurt boy that never learned how to handle anger. And he was told, big boys don't cry. And now he has no idea what to do with it. We've taken away his alcohol, and he's crying. And he doesn't know what to do, so he's throwing a chair, right? Maybe that's a little too therapeutic, but trying to figure out what's going on underneath, what's really happening. So look past the behavior. Try to understand what's driving it, if you can, or point them to someone that can, right? Encourage open dialogues around how churches and, should say communities, but communities can become safer emotionally. Normalize and encourage just the courage to seek support. I'm always of the mind, you never know where people are at or if you'll see them tomorrow. And so them opening up to you could be a really pivotal moment in their recovery, right? Not that you're responsible for it, but it could be what they need to move forward. It's also just okay not to know what to do, and just listen. There's plenty of times I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what to do with this client. I'm like, I'll tell them, hey, I don't know what to do. We'll figure it out together. Or if they're 18, I'll pull out Urban Dictionary and start looking up words because I have no idea what they're talking about. it's okay, right? It's okay to be light about it at times without negating where they're at, right? And I think that's it. Thank y'all. Those are references. Thank you for having me. Hello.
Well, thank you very much, Nick. Go ahead and let's have a seat and let's have
Absolutely.
a chat. Let's do some questions. And by the way, if you do have any questions, and this is your opportunity basically to get free therapy. Because you got two professionals right here on it. So if you have any questions, please just text them in. We got them, and we're going to ask them because we want to make sure that we get to your question. We've got some great questions. And so make sure if they can put that number up here on the screen, and we can make sure you guys get the opportunity to ask those questions. And let's get this thing started. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah? Well, you know what, Bree, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Because I know how much you love hard ones.
Oh, yes, my favorite.
Yes. So when a loved one has passed away, or really your first close loss, is sending random texts wishing happy holidays or updates about your day to their old phone number a good or bad way to try and heal? You need me to say that one again?
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
So you have a loved one who's passed away, and really I think the question is, am I grieving right? The answer is yes. There's no right way to grieve. I think you can ask yourself questions about, are the things that I'm doing in grief impeding the rest of my life? Am I spending so much of my time and energy sending a text, leaving a voicemail, that I'm not interacting with the people in my support system in real life? Am I not completing my duties as a family member in my job? Is it getting in the way of me living my life? And if that answer is yes more often than not, then we can have a conversation about it. But if it is a way of processing, you could look at this similar to journaling. If you could journal a letter to the person that you love, we would not judge that. We would understand that that's compassionate and that's a way to heal. So I think when we're in the process of grieving, less judgment and more compassion and grace is needed for all of us.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, thank you. I was hoping I could talk about this. I think it's a beautiful way to grieve. I'm going to echo what Bree said. There's no right way to grieve. There's certainly some wrong ways to grieve. Like I had a client that I was working with whose husband died 10 years ago, and she'd been drunk every day since. And we finally got her sober, and she told me, I have never processed this. I'm like, okay, well, let's do that now. And it felt like it was yesterday, right? So I don't want to put a judgment on the wrong, right? It's a strong word, but there are certainly no right ways to grieve, and the whole stages of grief, it's not linear. But yeah, is it impacting your life, right? And is it getting in the way? I see grief as like a pendulum. You want to swing into it, honor it, and also swing out of it so you're not drowning.
That's great. This question that I'm going to ask you guys is really one that I see happens in so many of our lives, especially as we get maybe older in life. Here's the question: as a caregiver with no time for myself, how do I find community? That's a question. It feels like a balancing act. I can either volunteer or join a small group or attend a support group, but I can do all of them, but I actually need to in order to feel fulfilled. In other words, which one should I invest my time in?
I'll start with this. I think you're trying to balance all of your needs. You are a caregiver, and that's one of your roles. And it sounds like this person needs that social connection to feel good, to have enjoyment in life. And so we need to see that connection as a need, and it's just as important as all of the other needs that we're trying to meet, and that's okay. So it's okay that you have to say no to something to be able to say yes to yourself. We've heard this analogy, and we've all thought it was cheesy at one point in time, but the idea of putting on your own oxygen mask before someone else's, you cannot pour into other people if we're not pouring back into ourselves. So maybe for you to be optimal, you want to go to like 5 social engagements a week, and your schedule right now only allows for you to do 1 or 2. We need to see that as progress and good. It may not be filling our cup to overflowing, and yet we can see that as a step in the right direction.
Nick, how can I set boundaries to protect my own mental health when other people are asking me or leaning on me for support?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have to give general advice, right? Because I don't know all the nuances. And usually I want to explore what is this. And boundaries is a big topic on social media and gets confused. I guess my general advice, though, is it's okay to say no. No is a full sentence. Don't set boundaries unless you're willing to follow through with them. And boundaries are not ultimatums. An ultimatum is if you have sex outside of our marriage, we're going to get divorced. That's an ultimatum. Boundaries is, let's not talk about politics after 9. But every once in a while, you end up relapsing, you talk about politics after 9, right? So figure out what they are, write them out. But I'm a therapist, right? And there are times I don't answer the phone when my friends are in crisis because I need to go to sleep and be present for my clients and my wife and my own life, right? Yeah, I feel guilty about it sometimes, but you have to pour into your own cup. I think Bree said it best. So there's a balance to it, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to come right back at you.
Please.
The things that prevent and help depression are great, such as exercise, having fun, playing, friends, church, community groups, those things. But these things are the things people don't want to do when they're depressed. Practically speaking, how do you get started? These are great things, but they're kind of hard to do when you're not in the mood.
Absolutely. So that is a great question. Depression gets in the way of us doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves, right? There's no magic tool or pill, but what I will say is try to think of something easy and start there. What did you enjoy as a child? What did you enjoy as a teenager? What is something that at some point in your life you thought and you got excited about? One of my favorite questions I like to ask people just randomly when I meet them at a wedding or whatever, what have you been really nerdy about that you can talk to me for an hour? And they'll just go off. We all have something, right? Like I'm really into like rock tumbling right now, and I can talk about it for a while. So find something that you're passionate about and pour yourself a little bit into it and then build up. I don't expect you to run a marathon, even if you know maybe that's what you need for depression. And talk to someone, right? Reach out to people. It's very easy to do these days. So hopefully that's helpful. Please add to it.
Yeah, I want to jump in. If you guys have your handout, on the very front of it, there's a green long box. I feel like this green box addresses this question really well. It is so hard to start when every part of you is saying, I just don't care. I really want to care, and I just don't. This green box gives you a couple of things. The 5-minute rule. I'm going to commit to do this thing for 5 minutes, and if I really hate it at 5 minutes, I'm going to quit. It gives you a low-pressure entrance into an activity. It also, at the bottom, I think, talks about choosing 3 things every single day, a pleasurable activity, an activity that builds you up. So really look at that handout in general, but that green section on the front is great for this question.
Yeah, that 5-minute rule is great, especially when it comes to starting like exercises and things that are kind of hard to take that next step. I had a friend, he put that rule in effect, joined a gym. He said, every day I'm going to show up, do 5 minutes. And he said some days he would just walk around the weights, right out the door again, and go home. Next day he showed up, would come, then would start on a exercise equipment. Then he would be there, he said, for like an hour. But some days he just walked right out the door. But that is a great thing that you shared, Bree, is just being able, hey, put that 5 minutes, just take that first step and see what happens. That's a great one, Anna. Hey, here's one that you both being therapists, this is great for both of you. What if you've been in therapy for almost a year, but you're afraid to do the work? Made the difficult changes and are so mentally stuck that you don't know if you can be fixed.
Can we jump on this one?
You look like you want to.
Man, I just have a lot of compassion for this question. I don't know if you're sitting in this room or you're watching this online and you can relate so deeply to this question, but I think we've all been in seasons where it really does feel like I know what to do, I have the tools, I just can't find the motivation to do it. Or maybe I know the work that needs to be done and I'm so terrified to do it. Because when I start the work, I know what that could mean. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. I know that this toxicity that I'm in right now, it's not great, but I don't know what the other option is. So there's a lot of fear. Like, give yourself grace and compassion for where you're at. And I would also say you've been in therapy for a year. There's some commitment, there's some consistency there. So give grace. Beating yourself down will not get you any further. And then just say, what's one piece of the work that I'm willing to try? Another question I would ask is, have you told your therapist that you don't want to do the work? I think there could be a great conversation that comes out of being honest and saying, I know what I need to do and I don't want to do it. Help me.
And you know what? I found therapists want to have that conversation. They do want to have that conversation. It's okay to say, hey, this is really hard. And really, it's taken me down some places where I really don't even want to go. I feel uncomfortable. Have that conversation. Ask the hard questions. Because that's what your therapist really does want to help you move forward. And if that's a sticking point, they can help you through that. Because they really are giving you great tools to help you move to where you want to be. All right, so don't be afraid. Ask those questions. Nick, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't know if I can say it better than Bree. I will emphasize, though, and add, it is scary. I think it's important to be honest. Something I've ran into a lot as a therapist is people aren't honest with their therapists when they're struggling. And so one of the first things I do when I work with clients is I say, I need you, I want to build some safety and trust so we can be honest. I'm highly collaborative. I'm going to ask for feedback because I'm not right for everyone, and therapy looks very different for working on depression. And people can get better and heal from depression with or without therapy, right? I've seen it all. Everything is a layer of Swiss cheese. It's all got holes in it, right? And so we need to add as many as we can, but just have a candid conversation with your therapist because maybe they don't know, maybe they're not the right fit, maybe we need to pivot, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, as a marriage and family pastor, I see this question all the time. So this is great. We got two professionals here to answer this on it. But here's the question. What should I do if my spouse mental health is affecting me and he doesn't want to get help needed? The help needed because he doesn't see the problem. There is no respect for boundaries. I'm trying to do my part because I'm struggling with mental health too. But I feel that I can't pull myself from the situation that is affecting me the most.
That's a good one. This might be the most common issue I'm working with right now with clients is marital discord, struggles, maybe there's addiction in the family or the family system or someone's not taking care of himself while the other's trying to get healthy. And it's a tough dynamic, right? We can't force people to get better. What we can do is still heal ourselves. So first and foremost, if you're not getting support, find support. No matter what, don't base your healing on your partners, as difficult as that is. We can model healing to our partner, and sometimes that will have an impact. And we can continue to encourage them to get help, set healthy boundaries, maybe enlist the village. If the behavior is, or what's going on is dangerous, maybe we can enlist a village to all come together to confront that. But confrontation with compassion, right? Hey, we're worried about you. You can't force people to get better though, right? I'm an addiction professional and I have a brother that's doing 15 years in prison, right? He knew he could talk to me, but he chose to continue. And I love him. I still see him all the time. But I couldn't stop him from doing what was happening. And that's okay, right?
how does that person handle, maybe the person's depressed, but very coming out a lot of anger is coming out. The toxicity, the escalation, maybe punishing them for something they didn't do, or there's just a lot of things, the belittling, disrespect, and they're strong, they're just angry, bulldozing down boundaries. How do they stay strong in those situations and protect their own mental health?
Well, my question is safety a concern? We got to prioritize safety. Are children involved, right? When I work with people that this is happening, I want to explore, is there violence going on, or is this purely verbal? What does it look like? What are the parameters around the children? Do I need to remove myself, right? I've worked with a lot of, I'm not a couples therapist, but I work with couples therapists constantly and refer constantly. Exploring therapeutic separations is sometimes a reality for people. Let's live apart for a while and see if we can make this work. I know that's not feasible for everyone, I realize that. But prioritizing safety is a big part of it. Trying to help them understand what's underneath their anger, and removing yourself when it gets out of control. I think it's good for couples also have like a safe word to reboot. You need about 15 minutes for the brain to calm down, prefrontal cortex to, that's that part of their brain that hasn't fully developed as teenagers and why we do a lot of dumb things as teenagers. That part's not active at all, right, when we're at a certain amount of anger.
I'm going to jump in on
Please.
that too. So everything that Nick said about safety is extremely important, and we need to address that. For the sake of the question, let's say that that part is addressed, that we're not dealing with a safety concern. I think it's really helpful for us to understand that anger, first of all, is one of those emotions that we see on the surface, and there's so much below that. Anger is a safe emotion for me to show, because if I want to keep you away, it's real prickly. I don't really want to come near someone who's giving me so much anger. It's going to keep you away, which is sometimes what we want when we're struggling with feeling stuck or depressed. Another piece is, it's really common for men who are struggling with men who are struggling with depression, for that to present as anger. This can happen in women too, but it's just something good for us to understand. The more we understand the scenario and the people we love, the more we can give compassion and want to come closer to fix the situation. It's really hard to want to fix something if all I feel towards you is frustration and bitterness. So finding ways that you can generate some compassion or empathy for your person.
That's really good. So this is a really good question, is the person's asking, if you feel stuck in an area of your life, are you actually depressed? Or can those two things actually be separate issues?
I like that question. Y'all are good. I think that depends. And I hate to say that depends, but there's so many areas to it. So it depends where you feel stuck. Do you feel stuck in your career? Do you feel stuck in your marriage? Do you feel stuck in, I think, look at your spiritual self, your mental, your social, your physical, all of your social self. We have so many realms that we sometimes are really successful in and sometimes not. And usually you have to sacrifice one to attune to the other. We can't do it all perfectly. So it's hard to self-diagnose depression too. I put a lot of things up there today. Doesn't mean you have depression. It means if you identify with a lot of them and you want to change, then there are a lot of avenues for that, and consider it, right? But I would be careful to self-diagnose. Clinical depression, there's a lot of nuances to that. I think most people are able to move through and past it with coping skills, accountability, and support. But I'm sure you have more to say, so I'll defer to you too.
The only thing I would add is just ask yourself a couple questions. How long has this been going on? Is this situational? Like you mentioned, is this my job? When it's a Saturday and I'm at home with my family, am I able to go play in the backyard with my kids and really genuinely enjoy it? Yes, I get the Sunday scaries and I don't want to go to work on Monday, but when we can see moments of that feeling lifting, that's a good indication that it may be more of a situational stuckness. And the hope that comes with that is, okay, if it's a job, if it's a friendship that's really, really draining me, whatever this situation is, we can address that. And then if we understand, okay, no, it's been happening for months, and no matter what I do, I'm really struggling to feel joy. I don't want to connect. No matter how much I try, I just am really struggling to engage. That might be a better indication that it might be something more like depression and not a situational stuckness.
I think this is a question that, kind of like that midlife thing, there's just that work question, feeling stuck, it's just feeling underutilized, is this question right here. My current job leaves me feeling completely underutilized, but I see no viable way right now out of it. What strategies can I use to manage the depressive feelings of feeling stuck? I think that's a question probably relevant to a lot of people in our church, our community, just that phase of life going, I'm doing something I really don't like, but I'm making enough money where I can't leave this, but they're just feeling stuck and even feeling depressed every day. I got to go to the place I really don't want to be. What are some strategies for them?
Yeah, so thinking about, can you find utility at work? And if you can't, then pivot from being a human doing to a human being and figure out how you can be. Throw yourself into your social circles. Throw yourself into a hobby that you enjoy. Find a passion. Attend church more frequently, or find ways to find meaning and purpose outside of work. I also recommend, and I do this with a lot of my clients, creating a ritual separation after work. I get really concerned if you're driving home after work, just your eyes straight like this, and you're not listening to any music, and you're just dissociating the whole time. We need to change that. So find a ritual separation from work. Mine was, I found a really funny audiobook. I loved it. I rewarded myself after work to listen to it, kind of laughed on the way home. It helped me. I don't know what it is. Some people, when they park in the parking lot, they do some deep breathing exercises, they meditate, maybe they call someone they love on the way home, something. But find a ritual separation and throw yourselves into areas of life that you feel that you have utility if you can't find it at work.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this question a lot, or this struggle about, I don't feel passionate about my job. I don't love what I do. And I think it's okay for us to evaluate work in a very different way. There are people out there who have the best jobs and they feel so passionate and they love every minute of it. And we get this idea that that's what we should be seeking. And sometimes it's okay to say, I'm going to find my passion outside of my job. This job is serving its purpose to pay my bills. And then I'm going to, like you said, pour into the other things. Another question I would wonder is, sometimes we get really, really used to the lifestyle that we're living, and we don't really see the ways that we can make adjustments to allow us to get a different job. Mm-hmm. And that may not be as comfortable, but at some point we do have to wonder, what is my mental sanity worth? And sometimes it is worth making an adjustment with the vacations I take, the car I drive, whatever it is, to do something that brings me more joy. You've got to find that balance. Like, we can't always be seeking out something that lights us on fire. And we also don't want to be doing something for 40 to 60 hours a week that truly is depressing.
Because every job gets back into that rut. You get in it, and then one of the things that I know just been really impactful is everyone finding their mission. What is my mission in life? Why did God put me on earth? Do that. But then there's tons of methods of how we can accomplish our mission. And we can even accomplish our mission at our job. And then that gives us energy, pumped up, like, I can't wait because this is my calling in life. And there's so many methods of accomplishing that mission. That's one of the things is feeling stuck in life is going back is to finding out why am I on earth? What is my mission? And then finding out what is that method that I can help accomplish that. Then that really gives us a lot of reasons why to wake up during the day to go, I get to do this and this and this at work, and I get paid to do it on it. So that's a great thing. So here's something, another great question. When it comes to past relationships, anxiety and trauma, what is a good way to not bring it into a new relationship? Just kind of stopping that cycle.
Therapy. Therapy is a great avenue for that. It's not the only avenue, but that's what it's for. Outside of that, journaling, using tools to build insight into what patterns you bring. Did you date a partner that was gaslighting you and telling you one thing and then, crazy making is what they call it, right? Like making up these lies, making us feel that we're going crazy when really they were manipulating. And now are you finding yourself unwilling or unable to trust your partner? That makes sense. You were in a relationship that was manipulative, and it's hard not to bring that into a relationship. And so when you call that out, I also think communicate with your partner. If someone's been cheated on in every relationship they've been in and they go into a new relationship, of course they're going to be worried that that's going to happen again. That makes absolute sense. So talk to your partner about that. And, allow them to give you feedback too on what you need to work on. Because I think all of us are going to bring things into past relationships. It's human of us. I still do it too. It's just communicate with your partner, and then if it is debilitating, then consider seeking additional support and tracking these things. Find a system to track.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. I think we have time for one more question. You have one more question for us, Roger? Can you narrow it down?
I actually have a follow-up question to this question.
Okay.
That was just half of it.
Oh,
All right. So here's the continuation is communication is huge in a relationship. So the new relationship. But is there ever too much communication with expressing past relationship anxiety? Over communicating.
Yeah, if you have an idea.
There is, I think there can be over communication, but I'm careful to say that because most people I work with, and I think just most of us in general, under communicate, or we add a little too much fluff to the flare, right? But you don't want to be 1 week into a relationship and talk about all of your relational trauma, right? I love Brene Brown's take on this. One of her books is on the flyer, I noticed, The Gifts of Imperfection. She's written a lot of books. She's the world's most famous therapist right now. But she always says, treat your life like a marble jar. Be vulnerable with people, give them some marbles. And if they're okay with it, give them a little more. If they smash them, maybe take them away. We don't need to tell the Kroger cashier about all of our sexual trauma, right? But eventually, we can build places and things. Because sometimes we have to put a lid on our marble jar, right? Like I remember I had this boss that was highly toxic. Everyone went to HR with her. I didn't share anything about my personal life with her. If anything, I was disassociative to protect myself. And that's okay. So, give them a little bit of marbles. Work your way into that relationship. Take some time. Don't dump all your vulnerabilities at once.
Bree, you use compassion a lot.
Yes.
How do I start to be compassionate towards others and toward myself?
That's such a good question. It's a hard question, too, because we all struggle with this a little bit. I think we can first start with people outside of ourselves. It's a little easier for us to extend compassion to someone else than it is to ourselves. We're just really hard on ourselves. So think of someone you really, really love and care about. And why is it so easy to give them love and compassion? What is it about them? Likely, it's not conditional. It's not because they do X, Y, Z for me, so I'm kind to them. It's probably they're there for me. They're consistent, whatever you value about them. And start to wonder, are those qualities inside of me too? Again, another one of those little cheesy things you may have seen on social media, but what would you say to your friend if they were struggling with what you're struggling with right now? You'd be a lot kinder to them than maybe we're being to ourselves. And it goes back to this flyer, which I would love to talk more with you guys about. Take one step at this. You're not going to get better at this instantly. It may be you're working on one new moment of compassion for others and yourself a week, and that's okay. We really, as we kind of wrap up these questions and in our night tonight, the biggest thing that I want you guys to know about this handout is that it's a really hard place to be if you showed up here, if you tuned in online tonight, and you are just feeling so stuck that this was kind of the only thing that you could think to do is just attend. You're gonna have this handout. If you're attending online, I'm gonna send you an email with this. There's one thing on this that you can try. So I want you to really take this home, think about it, do one thing this week. It doesn't have to be that you're accomplishing the whole handout. That is achievable for all of us. So I want to encourage you to do that. I also want to point out a couple things on your handout. On the back of your handout, there's a big green box. If you have been sitting through this talk and you're thinking, okay, I think I need help, but I have no idea what to do, this box is how you get help. At FOTP, we have advocates across all 5 of our campuses who are ready to help you start that journey. An advocate's process is just to be the bridge between, I don't know what to do, and here are some steps on what to do. They're not gonna be your therapist, but they are gonna be your friend that walks alongside you as you get to the right next step. You do not have to attend our church to request an advocate. You just select any campus. It doesn't matter if you don't attend our church. We'll get the right person connected with you, and they're going to walk alongside you. Another piece I want to highlight on there in the yellow box on the back, we have launched our Real Talk podcast, and I would love for you to tune in to it. The hope for this podcast is to extend these nights that we are having right here to a more conversational and more regular talk. So we release every other Friday. We have so many amazing guests that I can't wait for you to hear.
We have a ton of them.
Yes.
And we're having so much fun because we're doing really a deep dive into a lot of this very practical, very relevant, very, if you're looking for a toolbox to put in for mental health, this is it.
Yeah.
We got some great guests, speakers on there, as well as Bree is sharing, and Bree and I are just having a lot of fun. But listen to it, but also share it with your friends, people who you know could really be encouraged, but also at the same time be able to just really enhance their lives and their relationships. Share that podcast.
Yes. And I want to make sure if you registered for this event tonight, you are going to be included in an email from me in the next couple of days. That email is going to include a link to this video so that you can go back and rewatch it. Nick has agreed to let us share his slides, so I'm going to include those in there. And I'm going to give you my follow-up notes. What are the highlights that I thought were most impactful from tonight's talk? So if you didn't register, that's totally fine. The link is open until tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So please go back to the mental health page on the FOTP webpage, register for this, and you'll get added to our email list so that you get all of the goods from tonight.
Yes, so, hey, we just want to thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to close this in prayer. But also at the same time, we want you to connect with the mental health advocate we have here as a church, because we want to help you as much as we can to move forward for all that God has for you. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the opportunity to be in your church, Lord, and just for Nick being able to share with us. And Lord, I pray for every individual here, Lord, that you encourage their heart, Lord, to let them take that first step forward. And Lord, even to take that step towards finding a counselor, finding an advocate. Lord, we pray that they get to experience your grace, but also have compassion on themselves. Lord, we pray this in your son's name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear? Like you could fall and no one would hear?
So let that lonely feeling wash away.